Have you ever noticed that the loudest voices aren't always the wisest? People rush to speak, to argue, to prove their point, believing that power lies in words. But what if I told you that the strongest move isn't always to speak, but to stay silent? It's like a grandmaster in chess. He doesn't rush his move, doesn't react to every threat. He waits, watching his opponent expose their own weaknesses, knowing that silence is often the most strategic move. Or think of a needle in the hands of a skilled tailor. It doesn't force its way through fabric. It moves with precision, knowing that one wrong stitch can ruin everything. That's the power of silence. It's not hesitation, not weakness, but a tool for those who know how to use it. Because while they're busy arguing, defending, proving, you stay silent. You observe, you rise, and when the time comes to speak, your words will carry more weight than 1,000 empty voices. So, how do you know when silence is the strongest move you can make? When to walk away, when to hold back, when to let your absence do the talking. Stay until the end because the last one will change everything. Let's get started. Number 1. When emotions are controlling you. Let's talk about one of the most important times to stay silent. When your emotions are in control, not your mind. We've all been there. Someone says something that hits a nerve, and before we know it, we're snapping back, defending ourselves, or saying things we don't actually mean. Maybe it's an argument with a friend, a heated discussion at work, or even a moment of frustration with a stranger. In those moments, our emotions are in the driver's seat, and logic takes a back seat. Here's the truth. Speaking in anger or frustration often leads to regret. When you react emotionally, you're not thinking clearly. Your words become weapons instead of tools, and once they're spoken, you can't take them back. You might win the argument, but you lose something more valuable: respect, relationships, and sometimes even your own peace of mind. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt." In other words, staying silent in an emotional moment doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It gives you a chance to step back, breathe, and respond instead of react. A few moments of silence can mean the difference between making a situation worse or handling it with dignity. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Daniel, had a boss who would constantly criticize his work, sometimes unfairly. One day, after a long and exhausting week, his boss made a sharp comment in front of the entire team. Daniel felt the anger rising. His first instinct was to snap back and defend himself. But instead, he took a deep breath and stayed silent. Later, once he had cooled down, he responded professionally, addressing the criticism calmly and offering a solution. Instead of making a scene, he controlled the narrative. And guess what? His silence in that heated moment earned him more respect than any argument ever could. So, how do you stay silent when emotions are taking over? First, pause. Take a deep breath before responding. If you feel the urge to react immediately, that's your signal to step back. Second, ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Most of the time it won't. And third, remember that silence is powerful. You don't have to respond to every provocation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing at all. At the end of the day, words spoken in anger can't be undone, but silence gives you control, clarity, and the upper hand. Master your emotions, and you master your words. And in mastering your words, you master your life. Number 2, when someone wants to provoke you. Let's talk about one of the smartest times to stay silent, when someone is deliberately trying to provoke you. You've probably experienced this before. Someone makes a snide remark, challenges you in a way that feels personal, or tries to drag you into an argument that serves no purpose. Their goal isn't to have a productive conversation, it's to get a reaction out of you. They want to see you frustrated, defensive, or angry. And the moment you engage, they win. Here's the truth. People who seek conflict feed off your reactions. They thrive on pulling you into their negativity, making you feel like you have to prove yourself, explain yourself, or fight back. But what happens when you refuse to play their game? What happens when you stay silent instead of reacting? You take away their power. They expect an argument, but all they get is your composure. They want you to lose control, but instead, you remain unshaken. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. If someone is acting out of anger, ego, or insecurity, the worst thing you can do is mirror their behavior. Reacting emotionally means they succeeded in pulling you down to their level. But staying silent? That's the ultimate show of strength. It tells them that their words hold no weight over you. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Sarah, was constantly dealing with a toxic coworker who would try to undermine her in meetings. Whenever Sarah presented an idea, this person would throw in unnecessary criticisms, making jabs that were meant to make her lose her cool. One day, instead of reacting, Sarah just stayed silent. She let the moment pass without feeding into the negativity. The result? The coworker looked foolish, talking to themselves while everyone else in the room could see their attempt to provoke her. Instead of escalating into a pointless argument, Sarah maintained her power. So, how do you handle people who try to provoke you? First, recognize their game. If someone is baiting you into a reaction, ask yourself, is this really worth my energy? Second, use silence as a weapon. Instead of engaging, let them expose themselves. Their need to provoke you says more about them than it does about you. And third, remember that self-control is strength. True power isn't proving yourself in every argument. It's knowing when to walk away. At the end of the day, not every battle is worth fighting. Some people just want to see you react. Don't give them that satisfaction. Stay silent, stay composed, and watch how quickly their power over you disappears. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 3, when the other person isn't listening. Let's talk about one of the biggest energy drains, trying to reason with someone who isn't willing to listen. You've probably been in a conversation where no matter how clearly you explain your point, the other person refuses to hear you. Maybe they're too caught up in their emotions, maybe they've already made up their mind, or maybe they're just arguing for the sake of arguing. Whatever the case, the outcome is always the same. No progress, just frustration. Here's the truth. If someone refuses to hear your point, arguing is a waste of energy. You could have the best argument in the world, backed by logic, facts, and reason, but if they're not open to listening, it won't matter. In those moments, silence is your greatest weapon. Instead of engaging in a pointless back and forth, let silence expose their unwillingness to understand. When you stop speaking, they have nothing to fight against. They are left with their own stubbornness, their own refusal to engage in a real conversation. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca said, "Arguing with a fool proves there are two." Think about that. The moment you try to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced, you lower yourself to their level. You become just as caught up in the fight as they are. The wise person knows that not every argument is worth having, and sometimes the smartest thing you can do is simply walk away. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Jake, once got into a debate with a coworker who was convinced of something completely false. No matter how many facts Jake presented, his coworker dismissed them, twisting the conversation to fit his own narrative. At first, Jake kept trying to explain, but then he realized this wasn't a conversation, it was a battle. The other person had already decided to win, so Jake did something powerful. He stopped responding. He let the other person argue with himself. After a few moments of awkward silence, the coworker got frustrated and walked away. That's when Jake realized the power of not engaging. So how do you handle people who refuse to listen? First, recognize when a conversation is going nowhere. If someone is arguing just to argue, stop wasting your energy. Second, let silence do the work. When you stop responding, it forces them to sit with their own unwillingness to listen. And finally, walk away with your peace intact. Winning an argument means nothing if it drains your energy and leaves you frustrated. At the end of the day, you don't have to prove yourself to someone who isn't open to listening. Some conversations aren't meant to be won, they're meant to be avoided. So, stay silent, walk away, and let your wisdom speak louder than words ever could. Number 4, when the truth will only cause unnecessary harm. Let's talk about a situation where silence is often the wisest choice. When speaking the truth serves no real purpose except to hurt someone. We're often taught that honesty is always the best policy, but the reality is more complex. Some truths, while valid, do nothing but create unnecessary pain. They don't fix a situation, They don't bring clarity, and they don't help anyone grow. They just wound. And when that's the case, choosing silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Here's the truth: not everything needs to be said. Just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. A careless truth spoken at the wrong time can break relationships, lower someone's confidence, or create conflict where none was needed. And once words leave your mouth, you can't take them back. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "Not everything needs to be said, only that which improves upon the silence." Think about that. If your words won't add value, if they won't help someone grow or resolve a situation, then silence is often the better option. A wise person knows that truth should be used as a tool, not as a weapon. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him James, was at a family gathering when a relative asked for his honest opinion about a sensitive issue. James knew that if he spoke the full truth, it would do nothing but embarrass and hurt the other person. It wouldn't fix anything, and it wouldn't make the situation better. So, instead of bluntly saying what he was thinking, he chose silence. Later, he found a more thoughtful way to guide the conversation, offering perspective without causing harm. The result? He protected both his integrity and his relationship. So, how do you handle moments where the truth might do more harm than good? First, ask yourself, will my words help or hurt? If they serve no real purpose other than causing pain, reconsider speaking. Second, think about timing. Even necessary truths should be delivered at the right moment and in the right way. And third, remember that silence is an option. You don't always have to give your opinion, even if it's asked for. Sometimes, the most powerful response is simply saying nothing. At the end of the day, wisdom isn't just about knowing what to say. It's also about knowing when to stay silent. Not all truths need to be spoken, especially when they serve no purpose other than to wound. So, before you speak, ask yourself, will this improve upon silence? If not, let silence be your answer. If you've watched the video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a thank God, and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 5. When someone is trying to manipulate you. Let's talk about one of the most powerful times to stay silent. When someone is trying to manipulate you. Manipulative people are masters of twisting words, creating confusion, and making you doubt yourself. They know exactly how to frame a conversation so that you feel guilty, obligated, or even responsible for their actions. And the more you engage, the more control they gain. Here's the truth. Manipulative people twist words to suit their agenda. They will take your honest statements and use them against you. They'll make you feel like you owe them something when you don't. They'll shift blame, gaslight you, or pressure you into decisions that only benefit them. But here's the trick. They need you to engage for their manipulation to work. If you argue, explain yourself, or try to defend your position, you're giving them material to twist and use against you. That's why silence is your greatest shield. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Silence is the safest reply to the deceitful." When you stay silent, you deny manipulators the ability to trap you in their games. You refuse to give them power over your emotions. They want a reaction from you. Don't give them one. Instead, let your silence make them uncomfortable. Let it break their illusion of control. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Anna, had a colleague who was constantly trying to manipulate her into doing extra work. Every time Anna refused, this colleague would say things like, "Wow, I thought we were friends," or "If you don't help, I don't know how I'll manage, but it's fine. I'll figure it out somehow." At first, Anna would explain why she couldn't do it, trying to reason with this person. But every time she did, her words were twisted into guilt and pressure. Then one day, she decided to do something different. She stayed silent. No arguing, no explanations, just silence. And suddenly, her colleague had nothing to manipulate. The power dynamic shifted instantly. Anna realized that by refusing to engage, she took back control. So, how do you handle manipulators? First, recognize the game. If someone constantly twists words or makes you feel guilty, step back and assess the situation. Second, don't explain or defend yourself. The more you talk, the more material they have to work with. And third, Let silence be your boundary. When you refuse to engage, you send a clear message: I am not playing this game. At the end of the day, manipulative people rely on your reactions to maintain control. When you stay silent, you take away their power. So, next time someone tries to twist your words, don't argue. Just stay silent and watch their manipulation fall apart. Number 6, when you need to observe first. Let's talk about one of the smartest times to stay silent. When you need to gather information before making a decision. Too often people rush to speak, to react, or to form opinions before they truly understand a situation. But wisdom isn't found in being the first to talk. It's found in being the first to listen. Here's the truth: before making a decision or judgment, listen more and talk less. When you stay silent, you give yourself the space to observe, to process, and to see things as they really are. People who speak too quickly often reveal their ignorance, while those who pause and absorb before responding tend to make better choices. Silence isn't passivity, it's a tool for gaining clarity. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." The meaning is simple: talk less, listen more. The more you listen, the more you understand, and the more you understand, the wiser your decisions will be. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him David, was in a business meeting where 2 colleagues got into a heated debate. Everyone in the room was jumping in, taking sides, trying to prove their point. But David stayed silent. He watched, he listened, and he absorbed all the details. When the argument finally settled down, David spoke up. But because he had taken the time to observe first, his words carried more weight. He wasn't reacting emotionally like the others. He was delivering a perspective based on understanding. And guess what? His boss took notice. David's silence made him look more intelligent, more composed, and more in control. So how do you use silence to observe before speaking? First, resist the urge to respond immediately. Give yourself time to process what's being said. Second, focus on listening. Pay attention to words, body language, and what's not being said. And third, speak only when you have something valuable to add. A well-timed, thoughtful statement is far more powerful than a rushed, reactive response. At the end of the day, silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's a tool for wisdom. The wisest people aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who listen, absorb, and respond with clarity. So before you speak, observe. Before you react, listen. And before you decide, understand. That's how true wisdom is built. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply. Number 7, when peace is more valuable than winning. Let's talk about a powerful lesson that most people learn the hard way. Not every battle is worth fighting. In life, you'll face moments where you have the opportunity to argue, prove your point, or win a conversation. But ask yourself, what's the cost? Some victories come at the expense of your peace, your energy, and even your relationships. And in those moments, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Here's the truth. Some battles aren't worth fighting. You could argue, debate, and push to be right, but at what cost? Winning an argument doesn't always mean you've won anything meaningful. Sometimes all it does is drain you and damage relationships. In contrast, silence gives you something more valuable, the ability to walk away with your dignity, your strength, and your peace intact. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca once said, "He who controls his tongue controls his destiny." Think about that for a second. The ability to stay silent when provoked, to choose peace over ego, is one of the greatest forms of strength. A person who doesn't need to win every argument is truly in control of themselves. They don't let others pull them into meaningless conflicts. They don't waste energy proving things that don't need to be proven. Instead, they conserve their power for battles that actually matter. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, was in a heated disagreement with a friend. The conversation started small but quickly escalated into an argument over something insignificant. Rachel had 2 choices: keep arguing until she won, or step back and let it go. In that moment, she chose silence. She realized that winning the argument wouldn't make her life better, but keeping the friendship intact would. So she took a deep breath, let her friend have the last word, and walked away with her peace. Later, when emotions had settled, they talked things through calmly, and the friendship remained strong. Had she fought just to win, she might have lost something far more important. So, how do you know when to stay silent instead of fighting to win? First, ask yourself, will this argument truly improve my life? If the answer is no, it's not worth your energy. Second, think about the long-term impact. Will this debate matter in a week, a month, a year? If not, walk away. And third, remember that true strength isn't in proving your point, it's in knowing when to let go. At the end of the day, peace is more valuable than being right. Not every argument needs to be won, not every battle deserves your energy. So next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, ask, is this worth my peace? If not, choose silence and walk away stronger. What are your views on this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I will personally read all of your comments. And if you seriously want to level up in life, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Stay strong. Until next time.